This is the Town of Southbridge public hearing conducted by remote participation. This is the first of two public hearings for this evening, followed by a special town council meeting on the adoption of the budget. Again, this is a remote hearing. Public hearing 6-year capital plan. Mary is going to draft minutes of this meeting. She's not here right now, but she will draft the minutes based on the video as well as any notes that I take. There's no votes here tonight, so it's just a public hearing. On this particular, she will be here for the special town council meeting, however, to have that meeting. So I have council members here. Councilor Catrona is present, correct? Yes. Okay. Councilor Daniel, Councilor Marchetti, Councilor Nash, Councilor Manor, and Councilor Steves. I have not heard from Councilor Lazo at all. So,
excuse me, Mr. Chair.
You see me too?
Yes.
Are you recording this?
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. I know it's being recorded on YouTube, so.
This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you. All right, I'll start again. This is public hearing for my remote participation, Thursday, May 28, 2016. Councilors that I have present are Councilor Catrona, Councilor Daniel, Councilor Marchetti, Councilor Nash, Councilor Manor, Councilor Steves, Councilor Adams. And again, I have not heard from Councilor Lazo. The town manager is present for this. This is the public hearing on the 6-year capital plan. This is pursuant to the Southbridge Town Hall Rule Charter, Section 5. 10, Section 10-5-1. Oh, no, sorry. Section 7, capital improvement programs, 10-7. The town manager will present the capital improvements plans, which he did during the budget. Section 8, notice of public hearing on capital program. 10-8-1, town council shall publish in one or more newspapers of general circulation in the town the general summary of the capital program and notice stating one time and places where copies of the capital improvement programs are available for inspection by the public, and to the date, time, and place not less than 2 weeks after such publication when a public hearing on said program shall be held. That notice was placed in the Stonebridge Press. 10-8-2, after this public hearing and on or before the end of the 11th month of the current fiscal year, town council shall adopt the capital improvements program by resolution with or without amendment, provided that each amendment must be voted separately and that any increase in the capital improvements program as submitted must clearly identify the method of financing proposed to accomplish that increase. So with that, we did have council meetings for the capital improvement plan, but I will turn this over to the town manager to do his presentation at this public hearing. Town manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I first want to start off by talking a little bit about what the capital improvement plan is. And I want to specify very clearly it's a plan. The purpose of the capital improvement plan is to help department heads, help the staff, help the town councilors all look at the capital needs over the next 6 years for the town. It's made of a variety of components. One is the general town. The other one is the school system. I'd say the third I'll describe as components is the sewer system. And the fourth is the water department. Those are the four essential components of the capital improvement plan. What makes ours, I think, very detailed over a lot of towns is that we were fortunate to use community compact money to have a company come in and evaluate the physical needs of all the various buildings, both on the town side and of the school side, to give us a general plan for what needs to be evaluated each year over the next 6 years of both town buildings and school buildings. The capital plan also looks at all the capital equipment, things like trucks and purchase of various equipment for the departments. And some people call it a wish list of items. It really isn't. It is a list of all the department heads get together with me, and we all work individually to go through their individual capital budgets. And what they're doing is they're looking at what do they believe are the capital needs of their particular department over the next 6 years. Now, why I don't call it a wish list is because they don't include everything. They include things that they really believe they need over the 6 time. So each department meets with myself and the finance director. We discuss all the particular needs of that department, and it's put into a Excel spreadsheet. Now, this year, all town councilors got a variety of information. They got spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets for each of the 6 years. They received summaries of the what the individual department head wanted to do in fiscal year 2021, and sometimes they got more than that. They got all the years, but a description of why they wanted particular items and why they felt it was important. Then the individual form for each item requested in fiscal year 2021. Now, why is it 2021? Because that really is the major part of the plan for this year, things that we're actually going to act upon. And then when we get into the budget and in the town council meeting, you're going to see specific free cash allocations for certain types of capital items. And we're going to get more detailed into that. But there's a difference between what is called a capital plan and what is called a capital budget. The capital budget is what we're actually going to have town council vote on tonight to purchase specific items, mostly using the free cash distribution. All of this was presented to town council when I presented the town budget in March. The information is all on the town website and the town manager's section of the town website. The information is also available at the police department. So the citizens have had access, if they chose to do this, to look at it. It was identified that we would have that information on when I did the actual budget presentation. The town council specifically, we had put a lot of things in red to show them the changes from last year's to this year. And every year we continue to improve this capital improvement plan to make it better, to make it stronger, so that councilors can make good decisions in the future, department heads could make good decisions in the future. What is somewhat sad is that we have a lot more requests for capital items than we have funding to go and fund those particular items for. The town of Southbridge, many of the facilities are very, very old. There was a long period of time where a lot of capital equipment was not purchased. So over the last couple of years, we've been buying a lot of replacement for trucks and equipment that we needed, but we still have a lot that we need that we simply just don't have the money to fund. I think from the town council perspective and from the public's perspective, one of the future needs of this community is going to be look at how do we deal with major repairs to facilities. And when I talk about that, I think everyone in Southbridge realizes a lot of discussion about a firehouse and the capital needs of replacing that firehouse. The town hall is very old, needs replacement. And it's difficult because we're talking about millions of dollars in these cases. But it's something that we have to look at in the future and figure out how do we fund. The sad reality is that the taxpayers in Southbridge are limited in how much they can afford, so we have to do this over a slow, kind of steady space. The same is true in the school system. The receiver is on this call. He understands that many of his school buildings are old. They need things like new roofs and different major repairs to those buildings that we simply don't have the funding for. So one of the things that the town is going to be looking at long term, and I know the town council is going to be very involved in, is how to apply for particular state grants to do some of that capital work. But for anyone who is looking at this capital plan, you'll see it's all encompassing. It includes all the capital needs of the town. I believe I've looked at capital plans all throughout the state. Actually, in preparing to build this one, I believe this is one of the best capital plans in the state. Again, the plan can be phenomenal. If you don't have funds to pay for all the items you need, it's still a major problem. This capital budget's huge. Even just the first year of the budget is significant and a lot of specific items. I will say the things, I'll quickly talk about some of the major items that we are talking about funding in this year's capital budget, and you'll see it in tonight's agenda meeting. So I saw my mic turned off. I'm not sure exactly where. Some of the major things that we're going to be funding this year from the capital budget are $357,600 for the purchase of a new ambulance. One of our ambulances is getting old and constantly in need of repair. That's something that I'll be bringing forward as an actual purchase as part of a capital budget this evening. $56,440 for a mower for the Public Works Department. The existing mower is old and needs to be replaced. Also, we'll be looking for 2 new police vehicles, $50,000 each by the time you pay for the vehicle and furnish it with all its needed equipment. So 2 vehicles add up to $100,000. 6 public safety grade portable radios for $16,000. Information technology, that's an upgrade of servers and equipment at the town hall to make sure that we provide technology for all the departments in terms of storage of information, everything. The IT director is working on that. That's $20,000. Streets and sidewalks, additional funding for the TIP project. You guys know that as the Hook Street project. That's $125,000. We're going to be recommending the funding of that from the capital plan. Schools, Southbridge school system, we're going to be recommending roofing and various repairs at school buildings, $60,000. Fire alarm upgrades at various schools, $10,000. Lease purchase of 2 vehicles, $43,432. Financial system upgrade, additional funding of $60,000. Now, when I presented the capital budget, I presented additional items that I thought we could fund from the capital improvement budget from free cash. And that total amount of money that we were planning on doing, and I talked about those recommendations to some degree when I gave you the budget, and you could see from the capital plan a lot of other items that we intended to do. Now, I think we all recognize there's been a serious issue this year with the coronavirus, and that is having a serious impact on town revenues. And we need to protect, and I'm going to specifically here talk about fiscal year 2020. We need to protect the town from a shortage of revenues. So some of the money that we had allocated from free cash to buy capital items, myself and the finance director and I talked to the various department heads, and we made decisions as to what were priority items that we need to purchase and what things could wait. We decided $648,837 worth of spending from free cash would not go to capital items, at least temporarily, that we would be recommending tonight to put that money into the stabilization account until we see what our loss of revenue is going to be. The town council has control of the money in the stabilization account. And if they choose to fund any of these capital items that we had recommended in my original budget recommendation, then they can choose to do so. But I think that would occur after we understand what our revenue losses are and what we could afford to go forward with. So while the capital plan, we couldn't fund all of it, we took the key items. Department heads gave me their priorities of what their needs were. And again, those items we originally did with the free cash, but some of those items were cut. Now, those items that were cut, to be clear, every department head had a part of that budget discussion and felt that those items could wait till either later in the year or into next year to purchase those items because they weren't the major priority in terms of, what happens if we have revenue losses. So that's, kind of a general summary of the 6-year capital plan. Obviously, years 2022 through 2026 are plans, but as everyone knows, capital budgets change from year to year. We update them, we change them, different priorities come in place. So the real focus for this purposes is on fiscal year 2021. And unless I have questions, Mr. Chairman, I think that kind of gives a good outline of the capital improvement plan.
Okay. Do I have any questions from councilors right at the moment? Anybody in the audience? Councilor Steves, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One quick question is that you just mentioned that you stockpiled almost 650 grand from into stabilization, Ron. I communicated with DOR today, and they were recommending that we budget based on last year's state aid, which somebody might want to double check my numbers, and I can send it to everybody. So that if I calculate correctly, they're saying that the total difference would be about $750,000.
From what I'm sorry, Councilor Steve.
Go ahead.
We received very little money in Chapter 70 money. It was around $60,000. So that was very minor. We received more money in charter school aid, as you know, but we have more expenditures than we actually got. So I would, the number doesn't anywhere near 600 or 700 grand.
No, I'm Ron, I'm basing that on the fact that DOR is, I'm sorry, I probably misstated it. The DOR is recommending that we budget based on state aid being in fiscal 20 numbers, as opposed to what the governor's budget is, which I believe that's what our budget is based on, is the governor's recommended numbers, correct? If that's the case, then the numbers I'm calculating used on fiscal 20 receipts and fiscal 20 assessments, except for school choice and charter, which logically is going to be higher since we've already seen some of them. So I took his estimated numbers for school choice and charter from this year's recommendation because they're higher, or school choice is slightly lower, but charter is significantly higher. And I calculated it out to being $758,723 above or below what we are budgeting. And I just thought I'd throw that out there because those are the kinds of numbers that if things come in the way DOR is suggesting, those are the kinds of cuts we're going to need to make. And I'm not sure whether that would be from capital or from our general budget or both. But your free cash number obviously covers that you sent to stabilization would cover a huge sum of that.
Well, we are doing, again, you can do this in all different types of ways. I'm not truthfully, I think those numbers you gave me are way off, but I'll let Karen address the actual numbers from last year's revenues to this year's, because I don't remember anywhere near that kind of revenue increase from the state. Frankly, I wish there was. We are dealing with it, and you remember we had a lot of discussion on the expense side of the budget. We have set everything back on the expense side of the budget back essentially to 2020 numbers, with the exception of things that were contractual or things we couldn't change. Remember, we went through department by department and reduced those numbers. And then we use that money to reduce our local receipts money on a local thing. I don't think any town manager right now in the state knows what's going to happen in regard to revenue numbers from the state. I think a couple of things are going on, as I understand it, and conversations are occurring. And I think we're clearly seeing now the U.S. Senate is starting to change its tune, and the House and Senate are talking about doing a budget that helps some of our revenue losses and helping the state and the revenue side. I can't predict, truthfully, what's going to happen in terms of that. I expect that Congress will do something, but I don't know, Councilor Steves. I think we built in, myself and the finance director, have a host of ways to make up for any revenue losses, everything from stabilization to Casella money to what we're doing here tonight with more stabilization funds. I think we've made an appropriate budget, but things could change on a state level in a negative way. We'll have to adapt for it. I don't know if Karen has those revenue projections, what we're getting from the state, but the biggest part of increased revenues from the state, as I recall off the top of my head, had to do with the charter school reimbursement. But again, if the costs go up, I don't know how you can't budget for that or how we deal with that. So I don't think I would recommend any changes to the revenue projections now, but I think as we know more and we learn more, we may have to come back and deal with some of those issues. But that would, if we change those numbers now, it would have to mean we would have to go back into the expense side and redo all the expense side as well. So we wouldn't be able to do it tonight if that was the case. I do think the finance director is going to continue, and I'm going to continue as long as I'm here, to evaluate it as we get more and more information. And we have to call a special town council meeting to make changes. We will, and we may have to. I'd like to tell you that I know what they're going to do. I predict that they're going to give us money from the state to deal with this, but it's just not here yet. So we'll see how that plays out. But Councilor Steves, your point is a valid discussion, and I think we've set ourselves up well right now. But I can only set myself up for what's happening now, not so much what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, and I understand that.
Thank you for that. Hold on, Councilor Steves. Hold on. That's a great question, Councilor Steves. However, let's hold off for any further discussion. That is a budget hearing type question. This is simply on, while our budget is, we make decisions based on the budget, this is the capital plan itself, the capital improvement plan, which is just the plan. When we get into the finances, it's the budget discussion that we would get into. Unless I'm mistaken, I would gladly take feedback, but I believe that's the conversation we should have. Conversation is more on this 6-year plan and a hearing on the plan itself, with all respect.
If I can make one last comment, I want to say in
Yeah.
past years, we had some criticism of the capital plan. And I want to thank you, and I know the council, we went at great lengths to make sure that this specifically met all the requirements of the charter. I know that that was something that was very important to you, and the timing of this is all within the charter requirements. Just wanted to thank you and make it clear on the record that this meets all of the charter requirements specifically. And we worked really hard to see that through. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. Could you just, I guess for the public, give a brief overview of some of the things that were in your plan originally to be, brought forward as capital project for this year that we've had to put in advance because of fiscal concerns, and what impact that might have on the 6-year plan overall?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to do that. So I'm looking at the actual capital plan for 2021. As you recall, there was a lot of discussion over the inspector's vehicle in the fire department. That was about $32,000. The vehicle is getting old. It's important that the inspector have a good vehicle, but we believe that that vehicle can be held off for another year. So that was something that if we had the money, we felt it would be a good thing, but it wasn't a high enough priority that we needed to continue doing that. One of the things I wanted to talk about here, because it's important, and Mr. Chairman, we had a conversation with others about this issue, and I want to make it clear now before the questions come out. We had set $100,000 aside from the free cash distribution for the animal control shelter, and we had a lot of question about the timing of that. With schools being out, we were concerned that it would set back that project by a year. So we have over $100,000 in the account now. We had put $100,000 in this budget, and we took it back out. But in conversations we had with Bay Path, they are going to move forward and continue to build a new animal control shelter. I think we all agree that that's an important project for us. So while it's not on tonight's budget document, myself and the finance director will be bringing a motion, a transfer from the demolition of buildings account for $100,000 to the animal control shelter. So we're going to allow the money to go into stabilization tonight, but we've had a lot of discussion. I know council has a lot of discussion about that demolition account. It has like $500,000 in it. I've talked with the inspector's office, and we believe that we could take $100,000 out to fund the animal control shelter with that. And I've had conversations with the chair about that as well. But that is, I know, a project important to all of us, and it is going to move forward. Replace a Ford dump truck, an F-450. We had budgeted $90,000 to do that in the DPW. One of the trucks is old and not working as well. We wanted to replace that. The DPW director has assured me that we can go one more year. Obviously, she would like the truck and improves the services, but she believes we can put that off a year. While needed, it's not a priority such that we should risk buying that now and having a problem with our revenues. The TIP project was originally more. I think our original request for, I'm not sure exactly what it was. We worked with Heather, and she decided, we looked at the timing of when we need money, and she reduced that TIP project for the Hook Street project to what we actually needed in the budget year. So we can deal with any remaining funds for that in the balance of the future year after that. There was some school projects, as you remember, the technology projects for the schools. There was, let's get to that section, money to replace the Chromebooks and stuff. The technology, we worked with the school receiver, and I want to compliment him. He's on the phone. He worked with us. We had put $120,000 that we were going to buy capital equipment for the school system. The school system was kind enough to utilize savings. As you guys know, since school's not in place, we're not using the busing that we did. There was a negotiation with other towns, and we saved a significant amount of money. The school system did in that contract. So instead of using money from here to buy that technology, they are going to use the money they have from the savings. So that was another $120,000 that was saved for that purpose. I think they reduced think they originally asked for a little bit more for a fire alarm system, but they reduced that request as well. That's most of the items, Mr. Chairman. There's actually another $10,000. As you know, I think, and I've had great support from the town council. I put $10,000 in to kind of replenish the town manager's substance abuse task force. I think it's down to about $8 grand. We originally put 25 grand into that account. I evaluated how much money was left. We feel we can get another year out of that. So the 10 grand, we decided not to add to that program at this time. I also think that that's something that once we have the medical marijuana facility up, there's some contribution money to local charities. I think town council can have that discussion with that company at that time, and you can use some of that money for that as well. That's something the council, I think, can deal with in the future, but it really, the decision there is how long you want to keep that program going. But we think it had a lot of great benefit to the community by educating the people on the dangers of substance abuses. And I heard numerous compliments from town council and from the public at large about how important that program was. So there's money still available that will continue. When I leave, Jose Dingy will be the leader of that program. And, it can carry out through another year before the town council has to figure out another way to fund it. That kind of gives you a little bit more detail, Chairman Joanne.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Any questions from councilors at all on the public hearing? Anybody from the public have a question? I know I see one caller. I'm not sure who that is. And I also think I see Mrs. Clements out there, and the rest are town officials. Any town officials, anybody else that wishes to participate or provide any public input on this? I'll ask again. Okay. Seeing none, if there's no other comments or anything from councilors, I'd like to thank the town manager for the information that he's provided this evening. We do know that we have a challenge ahead of us, and we will discuss the capital improvement program for adoption later on this evening. If I have no other comments in this public hearing. All right. Oh, Councilman.
I have a comment, but I think it's more for the budget part of this. So it has to do with the shelter. So I think maybe it has to be discussed.
I'm sorry, the animal control shelter?
Yes. So I think it should be discussed at the budget level, not here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We'll take that up because it's specific to the funding of it, I would imagine. The funding mechanism. Okay. So.
Yeah.
All right. If there's no other comments on the 6-year capital improvement program presentation, public hearing portion, I'll ask one more call. Just want to make sure everybody's heard. All councils are heard. Be fair. All right. Seeing none, I'm going to close this public hearing at 6:29 p.m. The next public hearing is scheduled for 6:45 p.m. It's posted for 6:45 p.m. So we will take a 15-minute break to the next public hearing section. So I'm going to shut off the recorder right now. I'm going to remind everybody that this program is being videotaped by Southbridge Cable Access. It is an open meeting law, so just be careful on comments that there's no potential. I'm sure everybody knows the open meeting law, and I'm not lecturing, but I just want to make sure that everybody has fair warning. So with that, I'm going to close this public hearing at 6:29.